Education capitalization continues. Demonstrations among college students broke out in several cities in France, in solidarity with college students who set themselves on fire due to student debt last week. Demonstrations broke out in 40 cities including Paris, Lyon, and Lille in France, in solidarity with the 22-year-old college student Anas, pseudonym, Anas K, who sued the government by self-immolation last week. Anas, who is studying at the University of Lyon, previously posted a post on Facebook, mentioning that his monthly living expenses are only €450, and he is no longer able to face financial and school debts. He called for a fight against revived fascism, emphasizing that fascism would only divide the masses. At the same time, he called for a fight against liberalism that created inequality. He accused the current French President Macron, the two former presidents Hollande and Sarkozy, the leader of the far-right National Front Marine Le Pen, and even the European Union as the murderers of killing him, and called on the public to pay tribute to him. Needy college students lend a helping hand. Locally last Friday, 8th, Anas set himself on fire outside the regional student aid office, expressing his complaints against the above-mentioned politicians, the French higher education sector, and the entire government. 90% of Anas' body was burnt and he is still in the hospital. He once mentioned that the self-immolation site was chosen outside a busy university restaurant to create political focus. The incident touched students and people in major cities across the country. In Lyon, a large number of people gathered at the scene of the incident to support Anas. In the capital Paris, some demonstrators went to the Ministry of Higher Education and Research to protest. Some demonstrators took the gate of the department building and once forcibly broke into the building. Demonstration flag waving. In Lille, the largest city in the north, some demonstrators forced their way into a law school classroom. They held flags and banners with words such as "Long Live Socialism" written on them. Former President François Hollande was scheduled to attend a discussion on democratic issues here, but ultimately cancelled the trip. According to media reports, many students who participated in the rally were moved to tears. Some said that they were facing similar economic difficulties as Anas, and believed that the actions of Anas reflected the extreme anxiety of young French people about the future. According to a survey last year, the annual cost of supporting a child in France for education and other education was over €7,000, among which the expenses for accommodation, meals, and transportation were the heaviest. Leaks. Continuer comments. In the late stage of capitalism, financial capital enslaved the labor class with debts, and the labor class got debts for their labor, resulting in serious class conflicts. The capitalist class will use liberalism to paralyze and divide the working class, and at the same time use fascism to transfer domestic class conflicts overseas to create a world war. This time, Anas clearly put forward the political proposition of anti-liberalism and anti-Nazism, taking away a certain degree of advancement and revolution. Financial slavery in the late stage of capitalism uses neoliberalism, consumerism, and entertainment to anesthetize and divide the labor class internally, resulting in the extinction and involution of the labor class. The capitalization of education and sugar-hearted dating are a form of involution in the middle stage of capitalism. Continued by Zhang Fu, Educational Capitalization and Sugar Compensation. zihuanlan.jihu.com/p/66174580. Involution is just a delaying tactic for the big capitalist class to maintain the capitalist system internally. If the injustice caused by capitalist production relations cannot be broken, the capitalist class will inevitably use fascism to transfer contradictions to the outside world. The external transformation of internal class contradictions in multiple capitalist countries produces a joint force that is the world war. In order to maintain their monopoly on capital, the global capitalist class will never hesitate to kill billions of human beings. The essential cause of World War I and World War II was the result of the transfer of internal class contradictions by the big capitalists in various countries. In the future, the capitalist world will oscillate violently between introversion and fascism. When the turmoil in various countries reaches a certain level of resonance, the Third World War will begin. Also, neither socialism nor nationalism produces fascism. Fascism is a unique form of external expansion of capitalism, and it is also a common method used by the big capitalists in capitalist countries to solve their own class contradictions. Simply put, both fascism and neoliberalism are specific forms of capitalism. According to a report by the German news agency on the 27th, Tens of thousands of people took to the streets of Tel Aviv again on the 27th to protest against the right-wing government led by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. According to reports, public protests in various parts of Israel have been going on for several months around the government's judicial reform plan. Just a few days ago, Netanyahu announced his decision to move forward with this reform. And in March, several waves of protests paralyzed the country, forcing Netanyahu to suspend reform plans. On the 27th, Israelis protesting judicial reform waved flags and flooded the streets of Tel Aviv. AFP. Netanyahu has promised to reach a compromise with opponents on judicial reform, but talks have so far been unsuccessful. The report also added that, in addition to the ongoing protest pressure from opponents, Netanyahu's own party, the Likud Party, is also pressuring him to pass the judicial reform plan without compromise. The far-right religious coalition wants to defeat Israel's Supreme Court by giving politicians more influence over the courts and giving Parliament the power to overturn judicial decisions. They have long accused the Supreme Court of excessive interference in political decision-making. But critics say the decentralized system is in jeopardy and warn of a national crisis. The Israeli government, which has been caught in another crisis recently, has been busy coming up with budget plans for this year and next. The ruling coalition managed to pass the budget in time to avoid the automatic dissolution of parliament and early elections. Chairman Mao's method of grasping work, learning deeply and understanding, growing like a rocket, use it when you use it. Chairman Mao wrote a famous article, Working Methods of the Party Committee, which he said was written for the party committee, but when I read it again today, I still read it often and use it as I get it. The principle is the same if the party committee is replaced by a department, business department, company, or group. The main thing is to practice and use ourselves. One of them is very famous. The chairman advocates that cadres should focus on work. To grasp means that the party committee must not only grasp the main work, but also must grasp. Anything can only be grasped if it is grasped very tightly and never relaxes. Chairman Mao wrote a famous article, Working Methods of the Party Committee, which he said was written for the party committee, but when I read it again today, I still read it often and use it as I get it. The principle is the same if the party committee is replaced by a department, business department, company, or group. The main thing is to practice and use ourselves. One of them is very famous. The chairman advocates that cadres should focus on work. To grasp means that the party committee must not only grasp the main work, but also must grasp. Anything can only be grasped if it is grasped very tightly and never relaxes. Grasping but not tight is equal to not grasping, stretching out your palms. Of course you can't grasp anything. Even if you hold your hands together, but you don't hold them tightly, it looks like you're grasping, but you still can't grasp things. Some of our comrades also grasp the main work, but they don't grasp it tightly, so the work is still can't do it well. It won't work if you don't grasp it, and you won't do it if you don't grasp it tightly. This method is very suitable for each of us, especially cadres and managers. Mr. S will do some interpretation and explanation from several dimensions today, and fully understand the work that the chairman said. We must hurry up. 1. Grasp the big ones. 1. Grasp the overall situation. The person who directs the overall situation, the most important thing is to put his attention on taking care of the overall situation. Cadres and leaders should have a comprehensive mind, be good at grasping the overall situation, and have an overall strategic vision. Don't care about the gains and losses of a city or a pool, and look at the problem from a longer term and higher perspective. Analysis of Mr. X's case. When he was in the Jingangshan base area, the chairman often picked food with the soldiers, and often passed by the lawn on the edge of the Huangyang boundary, and would rest there when he was tired. Once the chairman asked the soldiers how far they could see standing on the Huangyang boundary. Some of the fighters said they could see Jiangxi, while others said they could see Hunan. The chairman happily took over the words and said, "Yes, we revolutionaries must stand tall and see far. Standing on Jinggang Mountain, we must see not only Jiangxi and Hunan, but also the whole of China and the whole world." Although just a few words, it can also see the chairman's overall perspective and strategic vision. 2. Focus on key points. The so-called grasping the key points is actually grasping the main contradiction. Everything must have a center or a key point, and it must not be all the key points, so that it will be impossible to grasp. As long as you grasp the main contradiction in grasping things, Other contradictions will be easily resolved. It is like pulling a cow to lead a bull by its nose. Analysis of Mr. S. case. Those of us who live in the countryside know that a cow must be pulled by its nose. If you pull its horns, it will push you up. If you hold its foot, it will kick you. If you pull its tail, it's an ant pulling a dead pig one by one, it won't move. Only when you hold its nose, it will follow you obediently. Cowboys know this truth. Its core is to grasp a key and focus. To keep it small. The chairman once said, when there is a problem, hold a meeting, put it on the table for discussion, stipulate a few of it, and the problem will be solved. In fact, the few regulations here can be a system or an authorization. Codders can't grasp everything. Grasp the key points, grasp the overall situation, and other related matters, use the system to coordinate, and can also be authorized to directly subordinate units to implement. However, if subordinate codders deal with routine matters and encounter important decisions, they must learn to activate the filing and reporting mechanism so that supervision can be checked, so as not to cause major mistakes and problems after decentralization. In short, leaders must learn to control but not to take over, to let go and not to let go. 3.2. The so-called management is to formulate several systems, and use the systems to check the dynamic implementation of grasping the big and letting go of the small. Use the system to guarantee the implementation effect after decentralization. If there is a problem with the degree of decentralization, it is necessary to immediately review whether to receive or delegate. The above are the main methods we need to learn from the chairman and grasp the work. Only by doing the above points can the work be grasped, and then we can grasp it well. These methods can be used by us completely. For more exciting learning, please purchase Thinking and Action and Methodology. I believe it will subvert your cognition. Fans must read good article. Why can Chairman Mao write explosive articles? Secret here. Stop. These three kinds of people are not suitable for reading selected works of Mao. They will go crazy. Mao's working method. Learning these tricks from selected works of Mao will make you a master at solving problems. To read selected works of Mao, one must first master methods, techniques, and utensils. How to read Mao Xian is far more important than reading Mao Xian itself. I don't know how to read Mao Xian when I was young, but I am already middle-aged when I understand Mao Xian. In the workplace, if you read Mao Xian, don't tell your colleagues. Ordinary people read selected works of Mao. Why, the sooner the better. Everyone should use the thinking of selected works of Mao to arm themselves to the teeth. More people started to read selected works of Mao, and what they realized was thoughts that would not fade with time. It is undeniable that selected works of Mao, which was once considered an obscure political reading, has been praised by many people in recent years, especially the more and more post-90s and post-00s. Reading selected works of Mao, what are you reading? In selected works of Mao, the value of selected works of Mao was mentioned. Today, let's talk from the side. Why is it better for ordinary people to read selected works of Mao as early as possible? More people started to read selected works of Mao, and what they realized, first of all, selected works of Mao can definitely be called a classic among classics. Of course, there is nothing wrong with young people reading classics. It's the same reason that students should read the 4 great classics earlier and learn literary nutrition from them. The chairman said that Mao Xian is a book of blood, because Mao Xian was the product of thinking about many problems that the chairman faced in the past, and it was the product of being forced to face difficulties and being forced by problems. The classic value of Mao Xian can withstand scrutiny and affirmation. Today's people, no matter in the workplace, shopping malls, examination room, or love field, will more or less face such and such problems, and they can find healing power from Mao Zedong. The sooner ordinary people find the answer, the better it is for them to gain a foothold in society and organizations, which is equivalent to adding brain plug-ins to themselves, superior to others, and one step ahead of others. Why not do it? To put it bluntly, what you learn is Mao Xian, what you get is competitiveness. Of course, it has to be said that the entire article of Mao Xian is written in vernacular, with endless golden sentences, strong dissemination and readability, and low reading barriers. Ordinary people can find their own answers in the article according to their different classes. The chairman wanted to express his political opinions and views on the current situation to the public in the language of the masses, so as to achieve the effect of uniting everything that can be united. This can be regarded as the strongest communication ability of that era. I heard that the chairman's on protracted war was passed on to Lao Zhang and Hu Zongnan during the war years, but even so, it still could not change the pattern of the war. Obviously, what the chairman saw was the general trend of war. Therefore, each different person can get what they want from the selection. It's like an elder preaching, teaching, and dispelling doubts face to face. Office workers regard Mao Xian as a treasure in the workplace, and entrepreneurs regard Mao Xian as a guide to starting a business. Mao Xian's wisdom does not lose its inherent charm due to changes in time and class. This is probably the most important reason why Mao Xian attracts the general public. Bar. People who understand Mao Xian always see problems right to the point, and are always familiar with solving problems. How are these cultivated and tempered? Chairman Mao chose many methods, and investigation and research is one of the big tricks. If there is no investigation and research, there is no right to speak. That is, if you do not investigate, you start to speak on something, so please stop, you are talking nonsense. One, research is necessary because research is to solve problems. It is not advisable and should not be done if some things are not investigated clearly, and they start to express their opinions. In the end, they lead indiscriminately and blindly. Secondly, I feel that there is no good way, and my head is empty. The chairman thinks that we should step out, ask downwards, ask the masses, learn to find the reason from the source, and those who really learn to investigate will have an empty head when they go out. When I came back, my head was not empty. This is the beauty of research. To pay attention to the method of investigation. Whether we study Mao Xian or read the methodology in Mao Xian, there are methods to follow. The chairman emphasizes methods in everything he does. If everything is not followed by rules, good results are often not obtained. Dare to hold investigation meetings and conduct discussion-style investigations. There must be a central theme, and you can't follow others' opinions and digress everywhere. Such discussions will be fruitless. Secondly, we must be good at listening to everyone's opinions, and we should not make decisions by ourselves, but let people who are closer to the truth speak. Go out in person when necessary. In everything, you can't accept information unilaterally, and you can't just listen to reports from one side. You should go down to investigate yourself and use your own feet to measure the actual situation, so as to get the real and actual situation, which is convenient for analyzing and solving problems. Make a record. All investigations must be recorded. Without records, it is difficult to trace and review. It is impossible to do it to others. If we learn these big tricks selected by Mao, are we afraid that the problem will not be solved? Investigating problems is like being pregnant in October, and solving problems is like giving birth once. To investigate is to solve problems. After learning these, you, as a reader, will definitely become a master in solving problems.